Last week when I told you you had to be here.
We got out of our deathbed to get here.
Well, we're blessed to be here in this atmosphere of love, are we not? Yes. And we're ushering in the empowering theme for May. And we talked about the Divine Mother, and we also refer to it as that feminine principle within. What's kind of neat about this, I thought about this weekend, what's neat about it is that this idea that we have here at New Thought of the feminine principle kind of crosses other religious lines. Thought about today. In the Christian tradition, the idea of the feminine principle is known as the soul. Anybody know that? It's true. It's the soul. And in other traditions, it would be called the Lord. And for others, and I think including the agnostic and also some atheists perhaps, it's called the subconscious mind. But here at the PLC, we don't worry about labels, do we? Not at all. It doesn't matter what it's called. We accept all of it. Okay, if that's what you're going to call it, that's fine. The important thing is, that we know without a doubt that there's a power and a presence within us that responds to us. And this power and this presence, I don't care what we call it, and it doesn't matter what our belief system is. We know that when we focus our thoughts with emotion and feeling, we know that we're going to experience something, and probably pretty much what we're putting in there. Do we not? Do we accept that? Yes, we do. I'm answering for you, I'm sorry. And we call this response the feminine principle. It's that nurturing part of our being that responds to our thoughts, that responds to our emotions, that responds to that which we're focusing on. And I don't care if you're an atheist or Catholic, and I was a Catholic one time, I still have problems. I was baptized. No matter what you are, it doesn't really matter. It's good for everybody. Everybody is endowed with this power. And so, what's kind of neat is I had a story that it had to do with Jack Geyer. How many of you remember Jack Geyer? Years ago, the PLC was really involved, and nobody really knows it but us. But we're involved with getting the community center here, the community college here. And so what we did, we got Senator McCorkindale to sponsor a bill, 1607. So Jack and I, we were going to lobby. Jack and I were going to get in the car. We had two other people. And we were going to get in my car and lobby the assembly people and the senators in Sacramento. Eventually we got it done. But I've had a problem for many years with the I-5. A real problem. And you'll remember this because a lot of you helped me heal that. It seemed that when I traveled I-5, the next best thing when I returned home was to call the people who are the glass people to have them come and replace my windshield. And some of you are smiling, you remember this. And it came to mind this morning, I need to talk about that. And so it seemed like I'd go on the road, and I'd have a broken windshield, rocks are flying away, and I'd end up, in fact, I was such a great customer of this company that they started giving me a discount for being the best customer they had. And they called me by my first name, "Oh, Angie, we'll be there." And they'd come to the office and they'd replace the windshield at the office. Well, one day, Jack and I were on our way to Sacramento to politic and do lobby, and I immediately started focusing on that again. I said, you know, Jack, I don't know if I can afford to keep doing this. You know, my deductible is all used up. I'm always getting broken windshields every time I travel in this thing, and I don't have any deductible left, and it's costing me a fortune. I can't afford it anymore. Poor me. And I no sooner than got that out of my mouth, Jack yells, "Watch it!" This boulder, this rock came flying on his side of the thing and cracked the damn windshield again. And you know Jack, everybody knows Jack as being a loving being, right? He has a temper, I'll tell you. He looked at me and he says, "Angelo, why don't you start practicing what you preach?" I said, "Jack, what are you talking about? I didn't break the window." He says, "Yes, you did." The guy was listening. And he said, "For the last few months, in fact, few years, I've heard nothing about this windshield being broken. In fact, last Sunday it was in your talk. So you're focusing on it and you're bringing it into your experience." I had the aha moment. Did you ever have that? I never got embarrassed in front of Jack because I didn't want to show him the benefit. But anyway, I stopped doing it. I stopped focusing, stopped talking about this the first time. Now you watch it. Anyway, I stopped focusing, I stopped dealing with it, and it went away. Don't tell me that we don't express through our thoughts processes. Maybe it was months ago, the columnist for the Fresno Bee put an article in the Fresno Bee. It was kind of interesting. I don't know how many of you saw that. And his name was McKay. Yeah, it was Harvey McKay. He put an article, and the title was this: Visualize your goals before you set out. How many of you saw that article? Visualize your goals before it sets out. This idea that PLC has is going mainstream, I can tell you that. And what he said was that it's just not an axiom. That if you dream you can do it, you can do it. I always like to say, if you dream it, you can create it. But anyway, he said the idea of if you dream it, you can do it is not only an axiom. He said it's a very powerful energy. It's a powerful means in which we can manifest that which we want to desire. And what he did, he mentioned a couple people. Usually they're people who are very well known. Jim Carrey. He said back in 1984, when Jim Carrey was just starting out to be a comedian, he did this. He took a check, and he wrote a check to himself for $10 million. And he dated the check 10 years later, Thanksgiving 1995. And this is 1985. And now in the memo he said, for services rendered as an actor. Now he took that and he put that in his mind, in his wallet. He saw it almost every day. And what happens? In 1994, he received $10 million for the role he played in Dumb and Dumber. Isn't that cool? I think we ought to clap for this guy. He also mentioned Oprah Winfrey. Of course, everybody quotes Oprah Winfrey. She's actually one of us. But like in her talk show, she's always talking about techniques and visualization. And she always talks about the subconscious mind. But this one quote that he said was, Oprah Winfrey, when she was 13 years old, dreamed about owning a factory. How many 13-year-olds dream about owning a factory? But anyway, she did. And she said, and it came true. She eventually owned a factory. So then she said, then I started visualizing selling the largest, most wonderful accounts in our town, General Mills. And I finally did that as well. So anyway, what we're talking about here is it's gone mainstream. If we can dream it, we can actually achieve it. And we have present today someone who manifests that. And they're friends of ours, they're friends of mine. And I just want to mention them and honor them today. And we have available Tim and Susan Madam, and also Fran. I'm going to stop calling you Fran. Anyway, when Hurricane Haiti came up and devastated the area, these people, out of their loving, caring generosity, said, we're going to do something about it. And they put that in mind. And they said, we know that this is a country far away, it's not the United States, and the children there and the families, they are not in America, in the United States. But yet, we are all one. And we are all one universally. There's only one race, and that's the human race. And therefore, we're going to do something about it. So they created this nonprofit corporation that's called Be the Power of One. Isn't that awesome? Be the Power of One. Isn't that PLC talk? And both of these guys, they've spent trips over. They've got a slideshow of a PowerPoint that they presented to a Lions Club. Of course, Lions Club we're pretty much taking over that club. There are a lot of PLCers there right now. But so there's a PowerPoint that really goes into it. But I just want to recognize what they've done. They've actually, through the power of this power that we call the feminine principle, they put in mind we can do something about it. You know, and what they did, they're bringing the necessities of life that we take for granted here. Clean water. My gosh, we just turned on a faucet, we have water. Well, they didn't have clean water there after the hurricane. They had to dig wells and they had to do certain things. Food. just food, just the idea of education, the idea of healthcare. They have made it possible through their corporation. Thank you. Stand up and make a comment.
Yeah, all right.
Now, we are the power of one. We're not borrowing from them. We're not taking from them. We're endorsing them. But we're saying each one of us, we are the power of one. That's what we are. And when I thought about that this morning at 3:30 in the morning, as our cat meow wanted to be out outside, I thought about something else. You know, it goes even beyond that. What it's really about is sovereignty. It's about sovereignty. When we think about sovereignty, we think of foreign countries, don't we? Or we think about the Indians and the casinos, and we're a sovereign country. We don't have to pay the tax or whatever they do, but that's okay. It's fine. But, so, how many of you ever think of sovereignty about ourselves? We need to accept the fact that we are sovereign. We have the power, the authority to lead our life and to create the life we want to live. We need to embody that and embrace it because that's who we are. And we are sovereign. We are a sovereign nation unto ourselves. We are the only being. It's kind of interesting. We've got so much power we can be less than we really are. Isn't that interesting? We're the only beings on the face of this earth that can actually be less than they are. The plants and the animals, they must always be themselves. Have you noticed that? They're always themselves. But human beings, Angelo can put in mind, I want to be a wimp. I want to wimp my way through this universe. I want to complain about everything. We've got friends who do this. I want to complain about everything. I want to put in my mind the regurgitation of the hurts and the pains that occurred in the past. I want to do that. We have the right and the power to be less than we can be. But we also have the power to embrace that which we are, to embrace the fact that we don't have to go there. We don't have to let the world of form dictate who we are. We have the power, we have the ability to determine what our life experience is going to be. And how we process that experience is up to us. I can look at something and feel that it brings pain into my life and irritation. Or I can look at something and say, screw it. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. I can look at something and say, release it. Steve's going to remind me at lunch. I know it. I always do this, and I look at him and say, I'm going to yell this guy. But we can look at it and release it and say, now there's something we need to do about all this when we embrace it. We need to put this in our conscience, and I thought about this morning. Angelo, you need to put in your conscience that, Angelo, I am the most important asset that I have. Angelo is the most important asset that I have. Each one of us is the most important asset that we have. And here's the neat thing about it. If I put a small value on who I think I am, the universe isn't going to raise the price. If I put that small value on it, that's where I'm stuck with. And I'll tell you this. Every day we have an opportunity to set the price of who we are. We do it. And we're Pizelo-izing all this stuff, but it's kind of cool. And I've got an ego, and I accept it as being something cool. But every day, we put the price on who we are. And how do we do that? You know, if something irritates us, what do? We fly off the handle, or we let that dominate my experience, and I think about it, I whine about it, like I do with the car, and I write home to mommy about it, I do all this stuff. I'm putting a low price tag on who I am. And so what I'm doing at that point is telling the universe, hey, give me more of the same. I enjoy being a victim. So when we set the price, then we're telling the universe that I'm a very valuable individual. I recognize the power that I have within me, this wonderful power that responds to whatever I want to do. If I dream it, I can achieve it. It's there. And so there's a story I read this week of how people in the workforce lower their price with excuses and alibis when they don't want to go to work. It's kind of fun. It's lighthearted. And these are actual statements that appear that the business people say. I couldn't come to work today because my dog